and the file types and all that. So I'm glad you're going through that whole process. I'm sure it's not easy, but it's going to benefit everybody for years to come.
I hope so. Mish, do I hit transcript or do you hit
I
transcript?
just did. Got it. Thank you.
Oh,
When I
okay.
heard the recording, I remembered to do it. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Now I got to remember to save it at the end.
Hey, Dick.
Oh, you're on mute, Dick.
All right. Good evening.
Good
Hi,
evening.
everybody. Thank you, David.
We can do sign language if you prefer.
Oh, I
So,
know you're good at that. So,
yeah.
uh,
Uh, you know who knows sign language? Both of my dogs.
Yeah.
Huh?
Kate
We
taught
learned it.
them because they're therapy dogs. And thank goodness, because now Thunder is deaf as a post and we can still communicate with him.
Carol School used to have it in fifth grade. We learned it, the Carol.
Yeah.
So
Gonna share the screen for now. So until that's right.
must be well-trained dogs that, Dave.
It's okay. I'll be back.
Not that I had anything to do with it, but yes. So,
Okay. We have a few more people we're waiting for. Hi, Beth.
Hi there. I'm here with Dawn and Goalie.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, yeah, we're all three on one screen because we have to follow at 6:30 with school committee.
Yeah. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which does give us a quorum. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Let me just read the blurb. Following the guidance issued by the Commonwealth in March of 2023 regarding the open meeting law, this public meeting will be held remotely, and individuals wishing to participate may do so by utilizing Zoom video conferencing technology. So let's just do a quick roll call. Marty? You got to say it. All right.
I'm sorry, here.
Mish,
here,
Gavin,
Here.
Kevin,
Here.
and Dick.
Here.
And I'm here. Great. So first on the agenda is this Dover Schools. And Dawn, do you have anything you want to share?
Yes, we do. We do have a presentation.
Okay, it should be set up so that you can share from your computer.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, I'm gonna let Dawn run the show here.
Great.
So welcome. It was so nice to see all of you in person a couple weeks ago at the region. And so hopefully it will abbreviate some of the opening slides for the Dover budget because they're very repetitive to also how we prepare the budget for the region. And just so you know, this is written as though it's the hearing presentation tonight. So disregard that. I just didn't want to have to be running two sets of slides. So we will get started. Where's the, oh, there we go. Yeah. So again, this is just our budget development process. Goalie's here representing the school committee. As you know, we started the first round of budget discussions for Dover actually in November, was our version 1.0. Before we had that version ready though, administration had worked since October in pulling together everything, the information we needed to establish version 1.0. We are now on version 2, which I think you have seen. The warrant committee discussions is typically what we would have done last week. And then tonight, obviously, we're having our public hearing at 6:30. So our budget assumptions for the Dover school budget is regular school operations with level enrollment, and we'll show you that enrollment and later in a slide. We do take into consideration the town's budget guidance. Where we could, we reduced, and we are pretty much doing level service. We are very, I think, budget conscious and have moved a lot of our purchasing of supplies and everyday school needs to Amazon, where we are getting great prices. So you'll notice when you look at our budget that most of our line items, even though prices are going up, we're keeping those line items steady because we're finding smarter ways to spend. We also take into consideration all the district strategies, and you can see we have our 5 buckets, and these did play a role specifically in the budget this year, and we'll highlight that when we talk about some of the adjustments for between fiscal year 26 and 27. And then we continue to assess our student needs, both our general and our special education students. So those are the assumptions that we start back in October, taking into consideration.
Hey, Dawn, can I ask a question?
Sure.
The procurement that you just described,
Mhm.
I commend you for doing that. And I'm curious, is that something that's town-wide, or do you think it's unique to the schools yet? You may not have any insight into that.
I do know that both towns have moved a lot of their purchasing to Amazon. It's, you don't want to. We have we have a special purchasing agreement through MHEC, which is the Massachusetts Higher Education Consortium.
Yeah.
We get a free Amazon Prime, and within that membership, there's curated catalogs where you're getting better pricing than like even your business or such. And it sort of guides our purchasers into those curated catalogs where they're telling you this is where you're going to get your best price. And I've really fortunate in all 4 buildings. They know that now that I'm sort of like price savvy, and they'll do their own price comparison, and they'll figure out that I can get this cheaper at WB Mason, or I can get this cheaper at Amazon. So they're very astute to that, and will spend a couple extra minutes looking for the best prices on things. And it does add up, and they know that they can get more out of their budget if they do that.
Yeah. I wonder if the town departments are eligible to participate or use those same catalogs.
Not probably through the higher education, but there might be other things available to them.
Consortiums, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we've always talked about the Dover budget in 2 pieces, in district, out of district. The out of district obviously is something that's changed because now it's not as large of a piece in the Dover school budget specifically. But when you look at the budget drivers for Chickering Elementary, 85% of our costs are payroll. So 85% of this budget are people in the schools working or supporting the schools. As you may be aware, we are in the process of negotiating all of our contracts. And so in the budget is a reserve for contractual increases that doesn't sit in payroll, which what makes our budget look a little strange. It's sitting in other educational expenditures. So when you see that line that's increased like 400,000, that's basically the reserve that we have put aside for all the contracts that we're in the process of negotiating. And we want to thank Robin Hunter for sitting on that committee with us as a representative of the town of Dover. I think this is her 5th time, and her knowledge has been very helpful, and her historical perspective has also been a great contribution to that committee. And I do feel like we're making really good progress. And then we look at our staffing based on enrollment and also our student educational needs. As you know, we have a pretty robust special education program within Chickering that obviously drives some of our costs because of the nature of providing those more specialized services. Our student enrollment, we're projecting 24 classroom sections. Currently, we have 445 students at Chickering, where our projections are giving us a number a little higher at 450. And just looking at our 5-year projection range, because I think that's sort of looking at the future, our 5-year projections range from like 415 to 450. So in the next 5 years, we might see 1 section change, but we are going to be pretty, I think, level for the next 5 years. And just to remind the committee, our class size policy is 17 to 22, and we're pretty diligent about staying within that range for our different sections between each grade. And as we've already talked about, we continue to do trend budgeting for our operating expenses. I never want to hesitate, or I never want to miss an opportunity just to say that there are some revenues that the town receives on behalf of the schools that help fund our schools. And your Chapter 70 funding based on the governor's budget that was released back in January is a little under 1.2 million. So those are funds that do help offset our budget that you don't really see in our budget, but they're in your side of the budget.
If-
Flipping over.
Oh, Beth, one question. Hey, it's Kevin. I'm just curious. How do you come up with those population figures? I'm curious.
The projections?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have we look at in-migration, out-migration from always using October 1st as our data point. And so we look at what percentage over 3 years are we seeing students move into grades or students move out of grades. Obviously, the piece of data that's sort of important that is an unknown initially is kindergarten, right? Because kindergarten is like the first time they presented to us. We have the town census, so we have an idea. But I would say many times our number varies from the town census. So that kindergarten number, though, then sort of sets the trend for what's going to happen over the next 6 years, because then that's the last
Sure.
unknown that we have. So we look at, and it's pretty good, the 3-year projection of looking at how many families move in, how many families move out, what students may go to private, and change back and forth. So that
Okay.
percentage is pretty good. So we have we look at 10-year actuals and 5-year projections using those in-migration, out-migration formulas.
Gotcha. I was curious about that, the town census, but so it's not completely reliable, like,
No,
okay.
I would not build a budget just on what the town tells us kindergartners are going to be.
Okay.
But we also have we also look at the formula and say, well, this is sort of what the town census has, what we normally see. I will tell you, every year can be completely different. Sometimes when families are moving in, if they have kindergartners, they're not on the town census yet.
Right.
The other issue you have is that not everyone who might be eligible for kindergarten goes to kindergarten in a particular year. Or
Right.
I will say, back when my kids were at Chickering, there were, a good percentage of students who might go to a private kindergarten and then come to us at first grade. So our in-migration, out-migration show that first grade growing at a larger percentage because of those kids who weren't in kindergarten but coming into us for first grade. So it tracks some of those trends.
Okay. But it's pretty flat over the next 5 years, basically.
It is, yep.
Okay.
It is.
Thanks.
What is not flat is how many are in each grade. Because if you look at our grades, you're going to see we might have 4 sections here, 5 sections here. So that does change.
Yeah.
But if you look at the total K through 5, we're looking at a pretty stable enrollment for the next 5 years. So the other piece is the out of district. And if you look at just our pre-K to 5, which is now all that's going to be carried in the Dover school budget, it's really a small number. It's less than 3 students. We're estimating tuition costs of about $200,000 with related transportation costs of $45,000. And based on those placements, the town should expect to see about $70,000 a circuit breaker. Now that's going to be a huge change for the town, because if you think about it this year, we're looking at like 1.9 million in circuit breaker. So it becomes a much smaller piece of the Dover school budget when you're just looking at those students or residents that are in pre-K through 5. So where does that leave us? And so it's really hard to compare gross fiscal year 27 to gross fiscal year 26 because of the out of district. So you can see that we're a decrease of 2 million. Well, that 2 million, you just picked up a big chunk of that at the region. So you almost have to ignore that. And where we're really focusing our attention to is really looking at the in-district. So the in-district increase is just a little over 233,000, which is a 2.63% increase over fiscal year 26. Our per pupil budgeted expenditures is 20,300. I made a point of saying that this excludes employee benefit and other town costs, because you cannot compare this to the per pupil cost at the region, because we're fully loaded here at the region. So I wanted to make sure that that was a distinguishable data point, that that's the town is covering all those other costs in your town operating budget, whereas the region has it in ours. So that's the difference when you look at the per pupil between the two districts. And you can see where we were in fiscal year 26 in the in-district. It was 3.47. So we do have a smaller increase in 27 than we do in 26, and we'll explain some of those decreases or changes when we talk about some of the substantial or the material adjustments. And again, I just made a point that, you know, the really big red numbers are because of the change in out-of-district accounting and shifting it to the region. So here's our overall looking at the last 3 years of actuals, fiscal year 26 budget, and then the fiscal year 27 proposed. So if you recall, I said our contractual reserve for salaries is sitting in that other educational expenditures. So you can see we don't have a $400,000 increase in other educational expenditures. That's really the bulk of the salary increase. And that's why you see a negative number in the salaries, because we do have some staffing changes, but that number does not include any salary increases for any employees. But you'll see basically we're not, you know, transportation, we had a little bit of a reserve left in last year's budget because we had a little bit more budgeted and then the final contract came in. It was enough to cover this year. So there was no increase in general education transportation, even though in the contract it was 5%. So you will definitely see an increase next year. Buildings and grounds, we had a really small increase. We increased our building maintenance by 8,000, but we were able to reduce our one of our utilities by 3,000. So that's why you get a net of 5. But you can see we're pretty flat. Salaries is really what's driving this budget. So we also like to look at our budget by what is like in the school expenditures versus what are the supporting services. So our staffing costs are approximately $6.65 million. I wanted to make a point. We do have a couple positions that are in some grants in the pre-K revolving. So these numbers and positions and FTEs that I'm presenting here is strictly what is in the operating budget that we're discussing tonight. And you'll see that we have 45.9 FTEs, including our classroom educators, our specialists, our coaches, and our educational assistant support. That is a decrease of 2.2 FTE from fiscal year 26. And when we get to the next slide, we'll explain a little bit more where that's coming from in both how we are changing our Spanish curriculum next year and a little bit on the physical education. For special education, we have 20.6 FTEs. Our only increase there is an increase of 0.2 of an FTE for a BCBA. Again, that's relating to the needs of our Growing Connections program, which is our special education program housed at Chickering. As you know, also tuitions in a couple of Sherburne residents. So it's been a great program for us. And then we have 3 FTEs for guidance counselor and psychologist services and 2.1 supporting, including our librarian and nurses. So that is really the bulk of your budget is right there. The staff in the building for the students. On the expenditure side, there's about $355,000 that covers sort of the needs for special education, all of our textbooks, curriculum software. And curriculum software actually is probably our most material expense nowadays. The hard textbooks are gone away and everything is software based nowadays. And it's also the technology needed to support the student needs. And so if you look at this, it's 77% of the in-district budget is going directly towards support for our students' education within the district. But they can't do that without us. And so there is 1.27 million of shared central office, which is superintendent, assistant superintendent. You'll see that we are adding a district-wide position for a curriculum coordinator as our director of student services, myself, and all of our related staff, also with our technology. And it's also the building based. So we're putting our building based, although they're in the building overseeing everything, we are putting them in overhead administratives. That's our principal, our assistant principal. We have a SPED administrator and the related administrative assistants, and then we have 4 custodians in our facilities department. And then the expenditures to run the building are approximately 860,000, and that also includes the transportation cost. So we're looking at sort of the overhead of Chickering at 23% of the in-district budget. I think it's helpful to look at it this way, just to show that so much of our budget for Chickering is direct supervision and instruction for students. So just to talk a little bit about some of the significant in-district budget adjustments that we have taken, and some of these have come in version 2.0. We did an instructional time study over the last year or so, and it resulted in a need for us to realign our specials. And with our specials, we're talking about music, art, Spanish, which was a very intense Spanish program that we had started about 14 years ago, and PE. So we are reducing 1.8 Spanish educators and a 0.4 wellness PE staff person at Chickering. That 0.4, though, just so you know, of the wellness educator is now a shared position with Sherburne. So Sherburn's picking up the 0.4 of that position because we are going to share a health educator between the two elementaries. So that was a decrease of 178,000. I want to be clear that none of these adjustments that we're talking about were driven by any budgetary needs at either town. This was something that is going to realign and make the school day more balanced and rounded for our students. And so we wanted to make sure we publicly said that none of these reductions were because there were any budgetary pressures. So just to clear that up. And then the other big study that's been going on, and I will say this is going on for about 2 years, is our instructional leadership study. It has a larger impact here at the region, but there is a piece of wanting to bring on another supporting person for our assistant superintendent of curriculum, being a curriculum coordinator. Chickering will be picking up 0.2 of that FTE. And with that, we also need some additional professional development because of some of the new initiatives that we're doing. So that is an increase of $43,000. The additional 0.8 is being carried at the region and at Pine Hill, respectively. And then for the first time, we're using a little bit more of the funding from the tuitions that we get from the pre-K to offset the cost. We've always carried one of the EAs, educational assistants, in the pre-K class into the pre-K revolving. But now that we only have one program running and we are starting to build up a nice reserve there, we're going to start also charging a piece of the educator for that program. So we pulled $45,000 out of the budget and put it into the pre-K revolving. And then we do have some educator retirement savings of $65,000. And the only real increase that we had is that during COVID, we had access to so much ESSER and COVID-related fundings that we purchased a bulk of our student devices without having to sort of put them in the budget. We're now in this, happily to say that's how far COVID is behind us. We're now at the point where we're starting to have to replace all those devices. So we do have a replacement cycle, and we are increasing the operating budget by $26,500 to start that replacement of iPads in our lower grades and Chromebooks in our upper grades. And that probably is a number that we'll see sustained in the budget. One thing that we have been doing with all of our student devices and actually staff devices over the last couple of years are leasing them. So it gives you a better flat number, but you've got to build up that base to be able to get everything that you need in. And we've been doing them on about 4-year leases. In addition to what we just talked about for the operating budget, we do rely on some grants, and our largest one is a special education grant that we get from both federal and state. It's combined, and it's approximately $175,000. That grant fully funds several of our educational assistants and our special education programs. And as we just talked about, the pre-K revolving. So we used to always have about 45. Now we're having a little bit more, but we take in about 90,000 a year in tuition. And then we have some various other title related grants is about $30,000. These are the grants I think that we have had a lot of discussion about the funding future of that with the change at the federal level. But as you can see, our biggest impact would only be 30,000. So there's not a lot of risk to the town. And then just to quickly segue and looking at all the pieces, there are no requests for capital for Chickering this year, but do know that we're undertaking an HVA study right now to determine next steps for replacement of all the original 2001 HVAC equipment. We probably see that going in as probably a phased project starting in 28, but we are obviously close to or past the extended useful life of some of these bigger operating units, but they have served us well, but it's now time to start thinking about replacement, much like we did here at the high school. And then again, we want to thank the town of Dover, all the community members for their continued support of educating the students. And we could not do a presentation without a special shout out to the Dover PTO. The support that they do at Chickering is incredible. And the curriculum enrichment, the funds they spend on that to add to what we're already able to provide a student on a daily basis, it's been as strong, continues to be as strong as it was when my kids were there, but they're invaluable partners. And I think it's a piece of what makes Chickering so special. So that's my abbreviated presentation. I'm happy. I think that this year's budget's fairly straightforward. Elementaries are so much easier to look at as far as, we know what our number of students are. We divide that and put our classroom sections, and then we have the supporting services. And I think we do a really good job of individualizing what students need and providing the residents of the town an excellent education in the elementary level.
Great, thank you. Dawn and Beth and Goli will have to leave momentarily, but questions before they leave.
And if you think of something later, just email us. I'm happy to send any responses.
You think you're still on track to have a contract before the end of this month?
Before the end of this month?
We're optimistic.
Yeah, we're optimistic. We had a really good, we've had some really good meetings. So I would say we're hoping that we might have something to bring forward to school committee maybe sometime in April.
Oh, Woody, we can't hear you. Sorry.
Yes, sorry. So are there any other questions? Very passive group today.
Well, we appreciate you making this work for us, and we are going to jump off for our Dover School Committee hearing. But
Great.
Thank you all for your support, and we're here to answer questions should any come up.
Okay, great.
And if you want to see it again, we're getting ready to do it again in 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Goli says thank you too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Great. So we're ahead of schedule, but Kevin is here. So unless there is further discussion of the school budget you want to have before we move on. Not seeing any burning questions. Okay. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you.
So it should be set up for you to share.
Ready? Give me a second here. Can you all see my presentation?
No.
All right. How about that?
It looks like it's got it.
Excellent. Sorry to keep you all in suspense.
Yeah. But
Um,
we weren't even anxious.
well, you know, good to see you again on such a short turnaround here, Woody, from Capitol last night.
Mhm.
Seems there's some new faces there. So I'm Kevin McCabe. I'm your Public Works Director. So we'll jump right into the presentation. So the DPW is comprised of 18 members. It's a multi-division team. We actually officially became a Department of Public Works in July, as of July 1st, 2024, which merged the park and recreation laborers and the cemetery employee under one umbrella. Our mission is to provide a safe and sustainable infrastructure to protect the quality of the life and public safety here in Dover. So obviously some of the work we do is catch basin cleaning, berm repair and replacement, issuing permits of, curb cuts for driveways and street openings, for trench work, for, water connections and of the sort. And obviously we maintain our fleet. We're the sole custody for the snow and ice operations for the community. We're in charge of basically everything you see within the public right of way. So understanding that our infrastructure assets, we are responsible for more than $61 million in assets, and that's based on the GASB statistic from 2000. So obviously it's more than that with inflation these days. So we have over 4 miles of walkways that we maintain, just under 5 miles of guardrails, over 600 street signs, 21 crosswalks, and we maintain over 40 pieces of equipment that are valued at $2.9 million. So, and then to really hone in on our stormwater assets, we have just shy of 1,500 drainage structures. So your manholes and your catch basins and where all your water goes. And then that actual drainage pipe and the linkage between those catch basins, which is over 7 miles. So we initially took on a SRF grant and started actually GIS locating everything, all our assets several years ago. So we're actually on phase 2 now. We were awarded a second grant this year through the DEP. So the initial estimate was 61 culverts. So after that field work and investigative work, that number shot up to 115 culverts that are town owned and maintained. And so with that, I suspect that the piping, which is more going to hone in on the second phase of this, that number will likely increase because we've only mapped about 25% of the actual drainage pipe. We have 4 town-owned bridges, over almost 160 stormwater outfalls. So SCM, stormwater control measures. So basically where all that water actually ends up discharging, wetland areas and what have you. And then so kind of a review on what we achieved this past year at the DPW. We paved over 6.5 miles of road through traditional techniques of mill and fill. Just shy of pavement preservation of 6 miles using microservice technologies and crack sealing. Installed over 8,600 linear feet of new asphalt berm. I'm sure you've all seen we replaced from Chickering to the Dedham Street, or I'm sorry, Center Street along Dedham Street, over 1,700 feet of new asphalt sidewalk. We repaired over 65 drainage catch basins. Annually, we clean all of our catch basins. That'll likely kick off in early April. And again, there's almost 1,100 drainage structures that we have to annually regulatory required to go in there and remove all that sediment. We repaired over 350 feet of guardrail. We line striped the town, which exceeded over 400,000 linear feet of new line paint. And then in our solid waste, our transfer station division, almost 550 tons of materials were recycled there. So that, your plastics, your cardboard, your glass, rigid plastic, all that combined together. And over 1,100 tons of solid waste was disposed. Another unique component up at the transfer station, in-house, we don't accept brush, but grass clippings, leaves, all that. I'm sure you see the pile if you're a frequent flyer at the transfer station. All of that goes to our compost area, and that results in processing over 800 yards of loom. So the materials you'll be picking up in the spring to do some touch-ups around the house. And then just continuing on, a large capital project the DPW undertook this year was a new stormwater drainage conveyance system at the DPW. For those who aren't pervy or familiar, in 2023, when we had all those deluges and rainfall, the facility actually flooded twice within 2 weeks. We were vacated to site trailers in our parking lot for over 8 months. Unfortunately, that was covered through insurance, so we got the building down to the studs and redid that. The main premise of that was an undersized stormwater chambers, what you're seeing in this photo, which, from our design engineers, they said they were undersized in 97 when they were built and then constructed in 98. So this didn't go to town meeting. The funds for this were absorbed from the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act, and this project was about $650,000. And then another really important financial piece of the town is how much money we bring in to the town of Dover to offset these projects and to keep the town moving forward in the right direction and replacing our infrastructure. So this year alone, we brought in over $867,000 back to the community. So I mentioned the AMP, which is Asset Management Program. So that's, building off that so we can finalize that and have all of our stormwater assets online and hosted through ArcGIS. We bought the town's first EV through a Mass DEP grant. We received $500,000 to reconstruct the Dedham Street culvert. And on top of that, we also received a supplemental fair share earmark for $50,000, which is used for the construction admin. So basically the approval of the shop drawings, putting it out to bid, and that sort of thing. And that project, actually, we had a bid opening this morning. So it came in under that. So we're very satisfied with that. And then another project we're working on is the town center, redoing that through Mass DOT's bottleneck grant. So that design contract is worth over $205,000. And on the other side of that coin, this program, it's great. They design it and help permit it, but they also give you construction funds. So we'll be receiving $1 million to actually implement and construct that, which would be the grant match. A portion of it would be on capital this year, and then the construction would start kind of probably early to late spring of next year. So then into the fiscal 27 highway division of DPW here, budgets request. Our operating budget only has two expense lines that we're seeking an increase, which would be our engineering expenses and our equipment maintenance. And our personnel services were level serviced. So the town's guidance of the 2.75 COLA was added to non-union staff. We're in union negotiations right now. So we're hoping those will be wrapped up in the next couple of months. And hopefully we'll have that honed in before town meeting. But my understanding is the town will have a set aside for that should it run beyond town meeting. So, as Marty can tell you, I was kind of nervous to, I was trying to respect the guidance of this committee. However, it's not realistic to level fund our operating expenses, especially given that I have a few service contracts that expire at the end of the fiscal year. So obviously, next year we'll be coming back to account for those increases. So that'd be for our pavement preservation contract, our hot mix asphalt, which we had a bid opening last week. So to put that into perspective, the tonnage prices the town was paying last summer was $106.50, and that tonnage price went up $11.50 up to $118 per ton for asphalt. So line painting, and our catch basin cleaning and removal, or those other service contracts that expire July 1st of 26. So just to break down what those two increases in expenses requests are, Dover is it's a federal requirement for the MS4 stormwater regulations, kind of trickle down through the EPA. And the purpose is to meet stricter water qualities, include monitoring and expanding reporting, additional treatment efforts. So we used 2 years ago the Carroll Community Center. They did the new infiltration basin at in the parking lot, so we were able to get some credits for that. And then this past year, we were actually obviously able to use our own drainage we did on the DPW site to get those credits towards basically phosphorus reduction. We are in the Charles River, so we are held to the same standard as any other community, even though we don't have sanitary sewer. We're currently in the eighth year of a 10-year permit. But unfortunately, it's not over in year 10. The EPA they issued a draft permit, and that will likely replace it at year 10. And so the reason for this increase, we have unsuccessfully recruited a town engineer. There is some hope in sight with the draft comps and salary that was rolled out yesterday to personnel board. We've made offers to 2 separate candidates at 2 separate recruitment times, and both, were exceeding or requesting exceeding what that max step was. So pushing that forward in, hopefully the next fiscal year, or hopefully that gets voted on before, would be able to up that. So hopefully, again, we're relying 100% on a consultant to do our MS4. Part of the full-time town engineer role would absorb some of this, so we'd be able to do a lot of the field work in-house and reduce that for future years. But this is the reality we live in for fiscal 27 in the interim. And then the other additional service request would be to increase our equipment maintenance line item. And obviously the purpose is to prevent maintenance, to do preventative maintenance and reduce those major repair costs. This line item hasn't been touched in well over 10 years. And now I know if some of you look back the last couple of years, you'll see it rose, but it didn't. We dissolved. We had a separate line item for radio maintenance and a separate line item for auto supplies. So there was no municipal accounting or reasoning that those were separate line items. So, we put those all in that same bucket. So, but for all intents and purposes, the records we could find and go back to 10 years to fiscal 15, that this has not been increased. So, and the other part of obviously upgrading our fleet, after 2013, all new vehicles have to have had stronger, stricter emissions through the EPA. So right now they're up to a tier 4. So all of our new fleet has to be tier 4 compliant, all the new diesels. And then, you get into crazy acronyms such as, the selective catalytic reduction, the diesel exhaust fluid, the diesel oxidation catalyst, diesel particular filters, so like DPFs, and if for instance a DPF, if one of those failed, those filters are and you would have to obtain the entire unit, would be over $20,000 in itself just to replace. So part of this investment is we need more diagnostic technology so we could actually control emissions and do some more of these repairs in house and mitigate that before it gets to these obscene costs. And so obviously it's a bigger upfront investment in our fleet, which, capital has been experiencing over the last 4 years. As I mentioned, the additional tools and diagnostic equipment, the new equipment has electronics, so it's, less things you can do in house that need to be specially done. And just for cost trends, for all intents and purposes, the fiscal 25 expenditures was $38,768. And currently this fiscal year, as of today, we are at $37,506. $1,058.29. So we'll likely in the next week or so with bills be in the deficit. Again, it's a true bottom line of highway expenses, but this specific line item. So those would be the two increases. And again, those are salary derived for the highway maintenance, and then those two expense increases. So snow and ice would be level funded. Our streetlights account would be level funded. The town garage would be level funded. Our roadwork budget will be level funded. Obviously, I've had a mission the last several years to do healthy increases to that budget, and I've appreciated the support of the Warrant Committee. However, the new governor's bond bill, she proposed a 4-year bond bill, which would mimic what we received last year, a 50% increase in Chapter 90 funding. And to put that in perspective, in fiscal 26, fiscal 25, we received 274,000. In last fiscal year, we received from Chapter 90, 473. So a substantial increase. Part of that algorithm they do now is based strictly on road miles versus the traditional is basically road miles, employment, unemployment. So obviously a rural community like us, we don't see the best bang for our buck in the traditional DOT equation, but the strictly road miles one benefits us as a rural community. So if that passes, which that was, they had a legislative hearing on the 3rd, which went pretty well. That's why we will be level funding that and not asking for an increase this year. And then solid waste is level serviced. Again, just increases based on staff and their step increases in their proposed or in our CBA agreement. And so with that, that concludes my budget presentation. If any of the members had any questions.
Questions for Kevin?
I do have two questions. Hi, Kevin. It's Kevin. Nice to see you. On that last slide, the 230,000 professional or 285,000 professional services. What is that exactly? Under solid waste operating, $285,000 for professional services.
Yeah, so that includes the operations of the transfer station. So that includes our prices we pay for recyclables, prices we pay for solid waste disposal at Wilburator, and the associated hauling to all of that, and every other ancillary expense that would be up there.
Gotcha. Okay. And then a couple slides back, I don't know, it was like 110,000 for like a tree warden activities or something like that. It was earlier. Where were the oh yeah. Tree warden expenses 105,000. What is that?
That includes all of our townwide plantings, all of our townwide removals, pruning, all of our tree work we do annually.
Okay, so that's not really like is that also I don't know, I guess I didn't realize that like just general plantings or clippings or something that's coming in the tree warden expenses.
That's correct.
Okay.
So it's all I believe it was 2 years ago, Carl Valente, we had several buckets that are now kind of put under the highway maintenance line items. But we still internally have separate codes for those to bill, when we have our contractor. Stumpy's out of Ashland is our tree vendor. So, we have a 3-year contract we just renewed last year. So that all gets billed to there for our purposes to obviously internally. But it used to be a separate account, the tree warden and those expenses, and now it's directly within the highway maintenance budget.
Okay. So that's got nothing to do with like conservation or like like tree um sounds like it's just more general, a lot of general maintenance, just called tree warden.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thanks.
I had one question. Can you go back to the slide where you're talking about the number of miles paved and the number of, um, I think it was 2 or 3 slides ago. Yeah, paved 1.62 miles. And we've got 61 miles of road. I think I remember seeing from another slide. Is this an appropriate, I have no context of, is this an appropriate rate? Are we under paving and under preserving what we should be? Should we actually be doing more? Should we be doing less? What's the norm for how long a road lasts in Dover and what we should be doing?
Yeah, no, Gavin, that's a great question. So every 3 years, I bring in a vendor who actually scans the roads. And if, previous warrant committee members would recall, that would be in my write-up from previous years when we were increasing or seeking an increase in it used to be called Tarvey and Patchwork, which is kind of just a bizarre name. So last year at town meeting, it was basically rephrased as road work, to kind of cover anything in that vicinity. But the point I'm trying to make is, when I started in Dover in 22, that summer we first scanned the roads and we were in 80.59, as in a PCI, which stands for Pavement Condition Index. We are now about an 80.10. So staying still at an 80 is pretty phenomenal, as far as being able to provide level service. The backlog number for that, I believe off the top of my head, was around $5.3 million we'd have to spend annually in road work if we were trying to achieve a 100. And I can share that report with you as well, for your context to read that if for your curiosity.
So I'm assuming getting to 100 means you have immaculate roads. All roads are immaculate and perfect, right?
Yeah, and Dover's probably in I would go as high as even the 10th percentile as far as PCI statewide.
Okay. So an 80 is a good score. I just from a context. I'm assuming it's because we're mostly
And my kind of driver the last couple of years is to get us to the number was around 800,000 we're supposed to be spending annually. So between Chapter 90 and then the local supplement that we get in our operating budget, we're basically able to stay at that and to be able to do that. So obviously the mill and fill is much more expensive, as I alluded to earlier, $118 a ton, but then you have to put in milling cost, tonnage cost, and every other cost that goes with that, including even lumen seating on the shoulders, the berm redoing, catch basin adjustments, right? There's all line items for that. So the per square yardage for that is a lot higher than crack sealing a road. So there's a degradation curve. So you basically, you want to kind of chip away in different categories. So you're not going to get much, if you get a road that's fully deteriorated and you go in there, it's going to cost you a lot more to repair that. But the cost benefit is not there versus, you hit a road that needs to be crack sealed versus it falling into that next degradation curve down for, having to do, a micro service or a more costly repair. So, that's why you'll see the number significantly higher for preservation, because you can touch more miles and preserve and protect before it falls into that category and inject more life. So a crack sealing usually injects about two to 3 years, and then micro services around 5 to 8. So and then you got to remember that that's preserving it for those, and then it falls back to what it was before you touched it. So so it's a balancing act. We have an online portal now for all of this stuff. And like I said, we have a 3-year contract that's paid through Chapter 90. So that's not utilized out of the local operating. And we do this every 3 years. And then kind of, deal with local utilities if we have to kind of shift those roads around for each year. So.
Okay. Because my initial reaction when I saw 1.6 miles and we have 60 odd miles, it's that's like a 40-year replacement cycle. And it's sort of like,
right,
really last 40 years, are we under paving? If you're saying the condition's pretty stable at around an 80, it seems like we're doing enough, but we're not improving it or we're not deteriorating it. Is that kind of fair? Or So what
No,
we're
it's a
trying
very, very fair assessment. So my goal is to try to maintain where we're at. And I presented those documents, like I said, previous years on to keep that request. So everyone knows the prestige of Dover Road. So that's something I know you all take pride in, going to other communities and then driving home. So down at the DPW, we take good pride in that and want to maintain that. So, but it's also and I guess on the other side of that coin, the coffers are full, and you guys want 100% PCI, and you want to give me $5.6 million. It's just fiscally, if put the fiscal responsibility aside, it's just not. That's just unobtainable for really even large cities, let alone ours, to go and basically cut up every road and and the other balancing act, right, is all the local capital that we have, culvert projects, and what we're going to see after this investigation work kind of concludes in the next year and a half, that all of our drainage is original, so which is going to result in corrugated metal piping that is the bottoms are going to be entirely deteriorated. So that's kind of the balance, right? We'd be replacing drainage, and then part of those in another community we did curb to curb as part of that capital investment, so it didn't come out of operating. So I guess just some long range thinking that and there's also techniques you can do to kind of line that pipe depending on how deteriorated it is. So those will be things we'll be exploring in the next couple of years.
Did you pave an extra half mile in the South Natick at some point in time? Just if you had some extra asphalt in there.
I was very happy that Dover Road in Natick was paved last summer, because I cannot tell you how many times we get called to go fill potholes on Dover Road, and we're like, respectfully, you're in Natick.
And Glen Street and Dover Road, I swear my car is going to fall apart.
Yep. Yep, that is the Dover difference for sure.
Yeah, it is. You guys do a fantastic job. Literally, any point you're coming into Dover, you can tell when the pavement changes.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, we take pride in that, and so it was handed a good torch with roadways and plowing. So as Miss Hunter said during my interviews, don't mess up our roads or our plowing. So and inadvertently, those are usually the worst things you inherit as a public works director and the communities you're going into. So,
Kevin, a few years ago, the solid waste disposal costs were going up pretty substantially. It feels like they leveled off. Is that a fair
no? So
take?
no, the tipping costs go up every year. Solid waste is one of the few things you actually don't have to procure the hauling. You can negotiate. So we've already negotiated our price with our hauler. They've done zero increase. All of our recyclables, the community's been in a partnership with Wellesley RDF for over 20 years. So all of our recyclables go there. So there'll be zero increase on that hauling. In Wilburator, which is all the way out in kind of Worcester, Auburn there, is only going up $20. So the reason there's no increase is because there's been a drop off of usage at the transfer station. So our tonnage is actually slightly down from last year. So that's how we're able to absorb that cost and not reflected in an increase in our budget proposal for this year.
Kevin, maybe I missed it, but so kind of big picture, what's the overall increase or decrease to your budget?
Excellent question. I believe it's on. I did it by category, so not by total. So granularly, I guess I can't give you that answer without looking at this and adding it up. So the expenses would be 63,000, and then obviously there would be the highway salaries. It was on this other slide, but it's at 996 876 277. So, and then for salaries would be around 56,100. So roughly about 119,000.
And that on a percentage basis, what would that represent?
Dick, you just keep giving me the questions. I don't know the answers to.
I mean, it doesn't
So
sound
I
like
have
much.
the answers for you. It's 4.3%.
4.3%?
Yep,
Okay,
so it's up 128,000,
128K.
4.3%.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. I apologize, Kevin, for putting you through your math paces there. Thank
No,
you.
it's a slot I
He
gotta.
was ready to talk about the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Yeah, no,
the inability to hire an engineer, is that a function of availability or a function of our pay scale?
pay scale.
Pay scale.
Yep. We had two excellent candidates, and they both wanted significantly more than what the town's initial rating of the position is at. From what I saw from the proposed increase through the comps and salary, it's pretty comparable to surrounding communities that are open right now. Holliston's open, Walpole is open. Sharon was advertising probably about 6 months ago. So there's a lot of demand for engineers right now. But like I said, we had two local candidates from other surrounding municipalities that we did make offers to, and we just couldn't come to terms. So I'm hopeful that this plan gets endorsed by the personnel board, Warrant, and the selectmen, and then ultimately the town of Dover, and then we'd be able to re-recruit. So I'm hoping one of them would still be interested. So,
Okay. And I'm not sure this is an answerable question, but as you know, Park and Rec is requesting funds to redo the pickleball courts and to pave and improve the drainage of the Carroll Park parking lot. What's
yes.
the capability? What's our capability to do that kind of work in-house?
I guess it depends on scope. For paving, we'd likely be able to utilize our contract. However, our bid package only has 9.5 super pave, which is top course. So we don't have binder in there. So likely we could negotiate that. But for such a small scale project, I'm not sure. Our capabilities, we have a sidewalk paver, so that's only it opens up basically 6.5 feet, the spreader on that, so that wouldn't provide the most reliable surface, if you will. And then again, not knowing, because we don't have plans, what that would entail for the drainage, but we have a very capable staff of those sort of underground infrastructure projects. So I'm sure there'd be components of it we would be able to do in-house. But I always struggle with that one, just for the fact, because then the term my old colleague used to use would be lost opportunity cost. So obviously you saw the statistics we have, as it lays now, we have no shortage in infrastructure and utilities that we own, let alone adding to that we're responsible to maintain.
Right. Other questions for Kevin? If not, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you to the committee.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think our agenda, actually, we're pretty well ahead of time. I don't see Anna here, but Janet is. Janet, would it be possible for you to go out of order and go next?
I think I can. Let me text Bob
Cox because he did want to participate in this presentation. He's our chair of our board.
Yep.
We could approve the minutes. Get that
We could
done.
we could approve the minutes. That's a great idea. So I didn't write down the dates that we need to look at
I
because
think we have 3 sets. I can grab them. All right.
well, Misha's looking, just a reminder that open hearing is Monday, March 9th. So this coming Monday at 7:30 in person at the community center. Uh, we start at 7:30. I think it'd be good for everybody to be there by 7:15. And then after open hearing, our next meeting will be the 18th. So we'll go back to Wednesdays and go back to 7 o'clock meetings. So the meeting after, the week after open hearing, we'll meet on Wednesday at 7 by Zoom. And the meeting after that will be the 25th, again at 7 by Zoom. And we're going to be under some pressure to start voting on articles. So I'll send out assignments of for articles that people will be responsible for. If you're responsible for an article, it means there's a form that we're going to be using this year to kind of just update people about where things stand. You're also going to be writing the synopsis and making the motion at town meeting. So as I'm starting to kind of assign articles, I'm trying to time to whatever your liaison responsibilities were. So that's working part way, I would say. So just to reiterate, open hearing on Monday at 7:30 in the community room at the community center, and then the following week, Wednesday at 7 by Zoom, and the following week after that again, Wednesday at 7 by Zoom. Okay, Mish. Got him?
So the 9th, the 11th, and the 25th.
Right. So we've gotten all of these. I didn't see anybody emailing comments or corrections. Unless if people don't have comments or corrections they want to add now, why don't we go through them in order? So I think we probably ought to do them individually. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the 9th?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Great. Marty,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. All right, great. 9th, the 11th, which was the in-person meeting with the Regional School Committee and Sherburne Advisory. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Great. Marty,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. And then the 25th, which was the last Wednesday. Do I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Great. Marty,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Oh, we're on a roll here. So
Nice.
getting so much done.
Can we take a 2-minute bio break before
We
we
can
jump?
absolutely take a 2-minute bio break. So reconvene at 11 or 12 after.
Okay.
Woody, I got a hold of Bob and was having trouble logging in, but
I just let him in as a
oh,
panel.
perfect. I was going to say I forwarded my invite and I think it's working for him
Yeah, yeah. He was in the
in the
waiting
waiting
room.
room.
I just let him in. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
So we're just going to break until for 1 or 2 more minutes until
That's
people
fine. I
have a
get
chance.
it.
Right.
I always think it's
Although,
interesting to hear other departments' presentation because we all come at our budgets in a different manner. So
yes, yeah.
Mm.
So, do you want to, I think it's set up so you can share.
I'll try. I'm not good at
Okay.
this. That's why I sent you my presentation just
Okay.
in
If
case.
you have any trouble, I think I can do it.
Okay.
I think I'm
Bob, I
in.
see you. Do you want me to wait to share till everybody's on?
No, why don't you go ahead and put it up and then just to
Or
make
let's
sure
see.
it displays and then
I'm not great at this, so let's see. Share screen. Let's see, hold on. Okay, so
looks like that's going
did
to
it
work.
work?
Yep, it did.
Okay. Okay. And then I can make it, I think, slideshow.
Yeah, or you can do it just there's a button and yeah, there, perfect.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
So let me just
Do you want
check.
me to stop sharing and then I can reshare it when people
No,
are
you
in?
can stay as you are. I'm going to give people one more minute and then we'll go ahead and start.
Oh, that's fine. I'm glad you sent a template. It helped me.
Great. Good. All right. I think everybody's back. So what so we're going to go out of order and skip sustainability and go right to Council on Aging. So Janet's here.
Okay.
And why
Hi,
don't you go ahead and,
everybody.
yeah.
I'm Janet Claypool. I'm the director for the Council on Aging. Also with us on support of the Council on Aging tonight is Bob Cox, who's the chair of the COA Board of Directors. All right, so I think hopefully you're all seeing the slides, and we'll see what we can do here. Let's see. Thank you. So just an overview of the Council on Aging. As I said, I'm the director. When you look at how many employees are in our department, we have a total of 7 employees. I'm the only full-time employee at this point. We have 2 outreach coordinators, one that's in the process of being hired. We have a program coordinator, an administrative assistant, and also as listed as employees with us part-time are 2 fitness instructors. The mission for the Council on Aging is that we provide programs and services to meet the educational, social, and health and wellness needs of Dover residents who are age 60 and older. The COA focuses on empowering seniors to live independently, promote well-being, maintain dignity, and enhance their quality of life. What are the responsibilities of our department? The COA coordinates and implements programs that address health and nutrition, safety and security, as well as travel, entertainment, culture, and education. One of the large components of what we do is outreach, and outreach and supportive services are available, which include care planning, advocacy, and resources for families. The Council on Aging also oversees the Senior Property Tax Work-Off Program in collaboration with the Assessor's Office, where we're recruiting seniors who are able to work for departments, and it provides them senior tax relief as an abatement on their real estate taxes the following year. The COA also provides financial and energy assistance to the town residents. At one point, there was a coordinator for the town for this. And then when I think we hit pandemic, and that responsibility shifted to the COA. So the COA provides that for all town residents, not just for seniors. When I looked at how we evaluate performance, the staff and the board of directors looked at the COA provides human services. When I look at how would you evaluate it? We look at financial piece. We obviously look at finances, but really how we best support our families and seniors is through services. So we picked 3 key performance indicators that we thought would be important to track as we're looking through this fiscal year and forthcoming fiscal years. Outreach services, as we've just talked about. So we thought we would use the KPIs to be the number of people served and the types of outreach services that are provided. Again, we have 2 outreach coordinators, or we will. One works 30 hours a week, Monday through Thursday. The other will work a 16-hour per week shift. And then I also provide outreach services. I am a social worker. The other KPI will be COA programs, number of programs offered and number of people attended. And then we thought one of the things we're seeing is an increased number of people attending programs and especially meals and luncheons. So we thought we wanted to track what does that need? What are the so we want to track meals, number of meals served at luncheons, at grab-and-go meals, for home deliveries. We do delivery to homebound. We're not tracking Meals on Wheels that people are signed up through another program. We're tracking what the COA funds and supports for meals. So when we're asked to look at a performance discussion for fiscal year 2026. I went back and looked at the numbers for this fiscal year, July 1st through February 28th of this year. But to give you perspective, as of December 2025, there's 1,642 Dover residents are age 60 years and older. That is 26% of the town population. For outreach, when what we've been able to provide for, I just want to go back to that statistics. And I went back and looked at the past 7 years, and we've seen a 12% increase in the town population for Dover seniors age 60 and over. For outreach, this fiscal year, we provided support to 330 unduplicated seniors. That means we're just tracking one person, how many people we've provided service to versus duplicated, where if we're meeting with somebody or visiting them numerous times, they're in the duplicated number as well. So the outreach service has also been provided 1,141 people. That is a duplicated count. Of that outreach services, 192 home visits have been conducted. That's by one person. Nan does our home visits as our outreach coordinator. What is outreach? Outreach is confidential support with care management. That's where we're helping people develop some care plans, implement those care plans, find the resources that they need, support them through caregiving, looking at aging in place and housing options. So many seniors are aging in place and choosing to modify their homes to manage their health issues rather than move. Housing options are limited for assisted living facilities and senior living, and there are wait lists for senior housing and assisted living and low-income housing. So most people now are coming back to us to support them and looking at the resources for that. We're also looking at placement issues for people, for families, as they're reaching out to us. Some are long-distance caregivers that are caring for their parents here in Dover. And they're looking at, I want to relocate my parents to live closer to me. What's available? Also for placement, we're talking to people that have gone through a hospitalization. They're looking to find a rehab facility. We'll work with the hospital team to help them make sure they get what they need when they're looking at rehab, or if they're going to be discharged home, do they have the resources in place so that they can maintain their care and be back in a safe environment? And transportation is always an issue in our community because we have no public transportation. So the COA helps connect people for transportation resources and advocates for them and helps them apply for public funding if they need that. One of the other things that you'll see is that we partner with Dover Police and Fire EMS for elders at risk. We are we get calls from the police when they're at a home. They come in our office and meet with us. The EMTs will call us from a home and see if we can help support the families. And a lot of times it will then be able to arrange a connection to the COA so we can provide follow-up support for families so that they're dealing with a health issue, but it may be one issue that's opened up to all other needs, and we can come in and hopefully help them address that. We're seeing an increase in those calls. These are calls for people dealing with insurance and Medicare needs because they don't have the funding to help them with the resource. We're also seeing an increase in calls for fuel assistance, for public benefits. That again is part of outreach and what we're able to do. When I compared this fiscal year from July to February to last fiscal year, we've seen a 37% increase in the number of people that are accessing this service. The other performance KPI that we'll look at is COA programs. That's one of the things that we feel is important, that we can offer programs for seniors to support them as they age in place and have health changes, but also as they're retiring. They're looking at coming in and connecting with their community. And the community center is a wonderful place to do that. So we are now these past few months, we've offered 415 programs, 565 unduplicated attendees, duplicated 7,013 attendees to our programs. That will include things like fitness, education, a historical talk, the Talk with the Town series that we're doing. It's including coming to the luncheons. So there's a mixture and a variety of programs that are being offered. Meals served. This was an interesting one for us to count. We could see that we have 2,242 meals served so far this fiscal year. We're not counting if people are going out to a restaurant for lunch. That's on the, that are organizing a lunch trip. This is more, what is a COA funding for meals? Food prices are rising. People are limiting what they're shopping for. And so a lot more people are attending our programs. We've served 296 unduplicated people this fiscal year for meals. When you look at, you asked to see maybe some of the highlights. How do we think we're functioning? I think we're doing very well, and it's very busy. It's a very busy department. We have a variety of programs that we're offering through multiple funding sources. We're using the general fund money. We're using the formula grant. We use revolving funds where the user fees come in for, say, a fitness class, and then those funds are used to help pay for the instructor as well. We also rely heavily on the gift funds from our friends at the Dover COA, where they're providing a gift to the COA. I think in this fiscal year, we've received about $20,000 already from them. And those are used for programs and services and needs that we can't meet with our budgets. The other highlight, I think, is that the community center's open. The programs that are now offered in one location, where for so many years, we had programs in 8 locations throughout the community. So when people would go to a program, they'd come to that event, we'd stay and connect with them, and then they'd go back home. Now they come for the day, or they come for a longer period of time. And that's important that they're able to make these connections. They're gathering for a program, and then maybe they're going to the cafe to connect with another senior and chat. People are coming in, they feel like they have a meeting place. So it's been a really positive thing for our department. Some of the challenges that we faced this past fiscal year, well, I should say moving. That was a challenge of getting us all into this new building, but it's been a really a wonderful experience overall. The other big challenge is we're trying to maintain services for an aging population with part-time staff and volunteers. We're meeting a tremendous amount of new people that have lived in Dover but haven't connected with the COA before. But they're coming into the community centers, drawing them in, then they're coming into a program, and then they're establishing a relationship with us. And as the trust builds, where if their health issues change, they're connecting to the outreach for further support. So I feel that it's the community center opening has been a boon for us. The other piece to look at is that it's not just the staff that provides this service. The COA could not provide all the things we do without our volunteers. In 2025, we had 234 volunteers provide 1,558 hours of service. This is not the tax work-off people where we have 6 people that are assigned to the COA department. This is volunteers. This is all ages. This is the Chickering students who are helping to create decorations or make cards, and or the Girl Scouts that are baking lasagnas and delivering them to somebody's home in the holidays. These are just a range of all ages that are coming to help serve at luncheons or bake desserts for something. The high school students provide tech support. They'll come and do one-on-one tech support for the seniors. And it's just been it's a strong component of our department, and we could not provide all the service we do without the volunteers. Bob, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to some of this service
I
that we're
think
talking
you're covering it well.
about. Okay. The budget commentary. I have the budget here that I thought it would be easy to, have everybody look at. I'm just going to minimize this so I could see it better. The we looked closely at what the warrant committee was asking for, and we tried to trim what we could out of our budget, knowing that one of the goals we have, let me see if I have it on the other slide, is that we're looking at having our operating expenses be level service funded, but we do have areas that we have to increase, and we tried to look at what other funding sources could we use for that. But really, the biggest challenge for us is food. The rising food costs and the number of people that are continuing to attend. So in the operating expenses, we increased the food line item and dues membership because we've seen a small increase in that in the past 2 to 3 years, and we did a decrease in printing. So let me see. You could see that here in these line items. So that is here. Printing, you can see there's a reduction of 500. In food, we have an increase of $2,000. So it moves our food budget from 16,000 to 18,000. Remember also that we asked for a $5 contribution from the people who attend our luncheons, and that money is also used to pay for that event as well. The salaries are adjusted using the compensation schedule. Our instructor wages we looked at and we decreased by 4,626 and shifted those expenses over to the formula grant as well as the revolving fund. There is a small amount still left in the general fund. Adjustment of our instructor wages will hopefully offset a portion of the increase in the salaries and the additional funding that we're requesting. So you can see that over here in the instructor line where we're asking for $4,600 less. Sorry, I have to go back and forth. I'm a person who puts things in big print because a lot of us have tired eyes. And so I couldn't fit it all on one page. For the administrative assistant hours, which is part of our permanent staff, again, this is a part-time position at 24 hours a week. We've been paying for part of this wage out of the formula grant. And one of the things we've been working with the Warrant Committee the past quite a few years, I think, Bob, is that we've been talking about shifting that the general fund covers the wages, but the formula grant covers the program costs, and that it's exclusively for program costs. We talked to the state, we've talked to other COAs, and that's how they do it as well. So the administrative hours, we shifted from formula grant to general fund, and you'll see in this budget. The other thing that's included in this budget is we asked for an increase in 4 hours each for the program coordinator and the administrative assistant, so that they would move from a 24 hours a week to 28 hours a week. And this is to maintain the services because our utilization has increased so much this year. And especially, as I've said, as we transitioned our programs over to the community center. The cost for those increased hours specifically is $14,157. You can see that here. It's all included in the permanent staff line item. And again, part of that increase in there as well will be that 14,000 and the compensation schedule adjustments, the cost of living adjustments for the other staff as well. Extra hours, if anybody's concerned, what are extra hours? That's so that when we have emergencies, we have families in crisis, that if staff needs to work extra hours to support them, we have the funds to pay for that. And we really factor in about 30, 35 hours a year for that. It's not always used, but it's important to have it there. This is for when we get calls from the police on the weekend or the evening, if we have somebody in crisis and not something, you can't leave the office at 5, you got to stay and help this person get be in a safe situation and get what they need. The other piece I just noted down at the bottom of this to help remind everybody where it says permanent staff, you can see the staff includes the outreach coordinators, the director, the program coordinator, the administrative assistant, as well as its 2 part-time fitness instructors. And this budget includes the extra funds we asked for as well. I think that's all I have. If people have more questions or like more detail, I'm happy to provide that to you.
That's great. Questions for Janet? Could you talk a little more about just what the impact of the move to the community center has done?
I think what we've seen is it's increased the people attending. So we're seeing a 27% increase in event signups. We're seeing a 37% increase in the outreach services. We're seeing 14% increase in the number of people overall that we're serving. I think it's created connections that we didn't have before, that people didn't always want to come into the Carroll Community Center, the old school, or found they would come in for one program and leave. Now they're staying. It's also that they have different places they can come and meet with their friends in. I think that's a key. There's a study so that they have a place that they can gather between events, but it also has created an opportunity for us to have more connections with people. They come in, we're able to give them a tour, talk about our programs, share a newsletter, and find what their need is. It opens the door for us to have a conversation with them about, well, what's going on with you at home? Oh, you're caring for your husband with Parkinson's disease? How's that going? What kind of support do you have? How could the COA help you? Are you aware that we have an outreach coordinator who could come out and do home visits? Or are you in need of a resource? So I think by just making that initial connection, it opens up that the community can be aware that their tax dollars are paying for our service, and we're here to help them.
I think one of the things that's important too with regards to the community center, it's a very pleasant place to be. If you talk to the Council on Aging staff, they enjoy being in a nice, bright, well-lit environment. And I think as our people who come in for programs and everything really enjoy the building. And I think that's raised the interest in the programs that we have, and that is reflected in our increased participation.
We've also had requests for programs. We've had people say, have you heard about this speaker? Or could you offer a Tai Chi class? So we've had people who are making suggestions of things or asking. We've got some people who are telling their friends in other towns who are seniors who are coming to our yoga class now. So our fitness classes have doubled, that in size. And that's exactly what we wanted, was for them to have a comfortable place. And this may not mean a lot to all of you guys, but it's air conditioned and the heat is normal. It's not, it's just such a big thing as for so many years, we did not have air conditioning for some of our fitness classes. And so this fall, and it was wonderful. I can't wait for the summer. The fact we
Yeah.
won't have to cancel a class, we can keep continuing it.
Other questions for Janet?
Yeah, I have, Janet, I see that you addressed, you noted some challenges with maintaining services and managing the volunteers. Do you anticipate that the increase in hours that you have for the staff is directly, it will offset these challenges, will address these challenges?
Yes, the program coordinator is the primary person who manages the volunteers. And that is one of the position we're asking to increase the 4 hours for, because that makes a significant difference. And when you're managing the volunteers, it's not just about saying, they say, oh, I want to help. And we say, great, could you do this? Sometimes it's matching them with the right senior when you're doing fall cleanup or you're doing snow shoveling or they need tech support. You want to find the right person who can help them. And that will be sometimes it creates a relationship with them as well. So for some of the seniors who don't have grandchildren nearby, it's a lovely connection, but also it is a time-consuming job to do because you're dealing with requests that are coming in. We've got parents that are calling saying my kid needs community service hours. We've got the scout programs, Girl Scout and Boy Scout, that reach out to see what they could do. So we try to say yes to all the people who are volunteering to help and find a way that it can support our community.
Any other questions?
I just have a quick comment. Thanks, Janet. That's great. But I think it's good that, I mean, I think this from a values perspective, right, where Dover spends money or has a budget, it's nice to see that the Council on Aging, I guess on a per person, if you just divide the budget by the number of people 60 and over, which I can't believe I'm approaching the bottom tier of the Council on Aging.
Nobody wants to admit
But
that,
that's a
Kevin.
different story. But it's about $224, per person in that demographic. A quick chat GPT, that's definitely at the high end, which is great, I think, of what towns spend. Brookline is $75 per senior. Millis is 85 per senior. Medway is 90 per senior. So I think it's good that we're up at that upper range, and I think that's just a good reflection on the town in general.
Mm. That's an interesting stat. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
If no other questions, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Let us know if you have questions as you're considering all the budgets and what your next steps will be.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions before we move to sustainability? All right, Anna's here, I think. Yep. Hi. Good evening. So
Good evening.
last session for this evening is sustainability. Anna Nagy is the chair of the Sustainability Committee, and she can go ahead and start. It's set up so you should be able to share.
I think I can. Let's see.
Yep.
Should be good. I think you probably have my browser tab at the top, but I think we're good to go.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. I wanted to talk about both what our committee is, as requested, also because we're new, and we want to start talking about a one-time budgetary request. So I want to explain what that's for and what the plans are. So Does anyone have any questions about us, like before I jump in? Okay. Sure, I am moving on. So we are a new committee that's geared toward serving the town by improving environmental sustainability specifically and climate resilience. So we're trying to work with other boards. We have a number of boards represented among our members to find the projects where the town can both be take a position that improves the energy efficiency, water management, biodiversity, and general climate resilience within the town, while also being, fiscally responsible. If there are infrastructure projects coming up, can we do them in a greener way? We are not specifically green communities. That's one of the many programs at the state, but we want to be aware of those. We want to support those projects. And many other things that are coming up through the Commonwealth. That's who we are. We've got a couple at-large members. We've got recycling planning. We've got a couple student reps. We're looking to recruit our school committee person and maybe a capital budget person. And Dave Haviland is our selectman liaison. And then we've got Carol or Melissa from planning board. So this is us in general. We are planning, we've got a couple of big things coming up. So this year, we recently got a $100,000 grant from the state to do climate adaptation work. So things the town can do, get together, talk about priorities to get better, able to respond to climate change events. So heat, cooling, large storms, all this stuff. So that's one of the main things we're planning on doing this year. I put my proposed KPIs, but I would love input if you feel like we should do these differently. So we both want to do that major project. We also want to keep moving forward on policies and other things we can do at the town level to encourage other boards to consider climate and sustainability when they make their changes and make their policies. And we also want to get a larger effort, a more coordinated effort going on education. So things people can do around their houses, programs available at the state level, both like day-to-day and any of the remaining support that the state has for electrifying. So those are our general efforts. So our big project, as well as keeping it moving forward at the municipal level and among education. So we are still learning. We've been around 16 months now. It's been really exciting. We've gotten to know each other. But these are some big projects. So we would love to hear also your take on, are we talking to the right people? Are we doing the right things? Are we supporting the town the best way we can? So we'd love input on that. But questions so far on who we are before I talk about our budget? Okay, moving on. So our budgetary request is for a climate action plan. And I want to be super clear. We're really excited about it. I know our selectman is more hesitant because we are a new committee, which is totally fair. We are new. And we don't have a lot of major projects that we have completed and shown off, which is understandable. And there is a lot of state money available to do some of this work now. Some of it might need matching grants, especially from other nonprofits, but there are grants out there we've heard about. I've applied for some. We've got one. I'm trying to apply for others. So there's good reason to say that maybe the town wants to pause on this or change the amount or whatever. So there's just please keep that in mind. The reason we're proposing a climate action plan now, and I'll talk about what a climate action plan is. I think I skipped a slide. Yeah, there we are. I'll talk about what a climate action plan is so with the grant we just got from the Commonwealth to do our adaptation work, we're kind of most of halfway there on a larger roadmap that's geared toward reducing greenhouse gas emissions and getting the community more adaptable to climate change. So our grant deals with the adaptation side, but we haven't dealt with the mitigation side. And mitigation being literally, what is our baseline on greenhouse gases and how do we reduce that? The Commonwealth just came out with a major program, the Climate Leaders Communities Program, that opens up serious funding. It's $1 million in infrastructure grants that town can apply for, $100,000 in planning grants. If we have done some of the basics, like be a green community and have a sustainability committee or similar office, but also that we've done our roadmaps on what greenhouse gases we're emitting and are planning on reducing it. So we're not saying we want to go so far as to say everyone needs to plan on reducing it, but we want to get a sense of where we are on the spectrum, what needs to be done, do the groundwork it takes to sort of start those discussions if the town wants to have them. The adaptation work we're doing through that's grant funded is necessary for other grants. There's action grants the town can apply for. I'd love to tell other boards and committees how to get them. That's based on priorities that were identified in an initial round of this kind of adaptation planning in 2019, which feels like a really long time ago. In order to do that work, we're going to be really doing a lot of community engagement. So we're going to be going out and doing forums. We're going to be getting community members to come and talk to us regularly. And I expect, the committee expects, we will have folks who are maybe kind of interested in adaptation, but really want to talk about mitigation. And we're going to be driving a lot of trying to drive a lot of interest toward folks coming and showing up and talking to us. And if we're doing that kind of outreach, I kind of want to do it all at once so we can be efficient with people's time. So this is this is what we're thinking in terms of climate action plans in general. We've got the adaptation side, but we're talking about the mitigation and kind of the stitching it all together into a roadmap. Let's see. Next thing. So back to where I was. So the budget request specifically is we'd like to talk about a one-time budget that lets us do matching funds for grants. I've applied for one grant, haven't heard back yet, but they'd like matching, MAPC, or hire our own vendor in order to do the greenhouse gas work, help us with leading community forums so folks can weigh in on mitigation work if they feel the need or have opinions, while we're kind of doing this on the adaptation project as well. It's a lot, which has rightly been flagged to us. It's a big, aggressive project, which has rightly been flagged to us. But we feel that since we will be well underway, it's really worth considering doing it together so we don't have to haul people out to multiple forums if they don't want or space it out over too many years. So the thinking is we will use our state funds to do adaptation, and the other half of the state funds goes toward a public-facing project that gets people excited about climate work. So we'll do that. That's a very structured process, and then we will also do the rest of it in mitigation and polishing off the climate action plan into a roadmap the town can use as a larger picture for justification as to why we need certain grants, as well as identifying the community's interest in different kinds of projects and priorities. So yes, we're going to keep pursuing grants. I'll keep telling you about that. But also I'd just love to hear people's take on, does this seem like it's the right year for it? Does it seem like this is the right amount of money? We've talked to other towns. We've seen it's somewhere between 70 and I think, 138 for a full climate action plan. So we're kind of trying to target the middle. But I'm hoping we will be able to get grant funds and cover a lot of it and end up not costing that much. So, yeah.
Anna, if you have a complete climate action plan, does that open up the door for more state grants?
Yes. There's a couple things going on with that. So there's federal grants that still exist that want a full comprehensive plan. There's a focus on state grants that really want the mitigation work, and they want us to have done figured out the roadmap gotten a sense and planned out how we're going to get to net zero, and then identify how our infrastructure grants or other types of planning grants fit into that step. So that's the climate leaders effort. The adaptation work has to be done in order for us to qualify for all the programs there, which we're underway with. The glue in the middle of how do these two come together as two community priorities is more interested, from what I could see in my research, there's more focus on that at the federal level, but even still, like the Environmental and Energy Agency looks for comprehensive plans as indications that the town is like really committed to using these funds for something. So there's been a fair amount of change here, but yes, the towns are still, like the state is still looking for it.
Okay, thanks.
What do you think you muted?
Can you just explain a little more what
Yeah.
what is required to create a climate action plan?
So we need to have done technical work on what is the greenhouse gas emissions from this town, both residential and municipal. We need to have gotten the community together and figured out what kinds of risks people are identifying. And there's some technical work here, but it's more listening to the community. We need to have gotten everyone together and figure out what kinds of risks are threatening themselves, their neighbors. If they're on the Charles, are they more at risk from floods than they were before, stuff like that. And essentially go through and identify both the town's current status on greenhouse gas emissions and current climate risks, and then come up with a bunch of priorities to what do we think is the most important, how do we propose addressing it. Not so concrete as like, there is a specific culvert that is a problem on Springdale, more like I regularly see flooding, this is going to cause me increasing problems, and then also some technical work indicating like, yes, we see stormwater issues. We can and will reuse the work that other boards and committees are doing in similar areas. So conservation and DPW have projects underway here. Conservation more from hearing about it, and DPW from the culvert effort. We don't want to duplicate that. We want to also go to other boards and get their input on this. Some of it is just collating everything and making sure we are all on the same page.
Right. And is it sounds like part of the MVP2 grant involves hiring a planning consultant.
Yep.
Is the climate action plan developed primarily by the members of the committee, or does the consultant drive the climate action plan?
Every town we've spoken to has had a consultant do it. And I think that's a good way of doing it. Technically, the writing of the priorities is something that we kind of could do, but I do believe having a separate consultant who we either work with MAPC or find another one, having a separate consultant to guide us through the mitigation work and polishing off the climate action plan will be more efficient for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Taking into account the MVP. We don't want to end up with two documents, which is also part of the reason we're talking about this now, because then we'll have an adaptation plan and a mitigation plan, and no one will have stepped back and gone, as a town, what's our sensibility about climate change?
Right. Other questions?
Yeah.
You have a comment there that total costs for similar towns are 70,000 to 138,000. Is there any town where you say, hey, this is a good example of a completed plan, and get some concept of what the outcome was after that, whether it was specific grant money? So was it net financially beneficial to the town? Was it net negative to the town? Just trying to understand if there's
sure.
higher that we can go look at to understand, especially if it by some means helps offset some of the capital budget requests in the future, because we're more eligible for grants. I'm just curious on either good case studies that we can reference or look at in order to understand that potential.
Yeah, we really loved the Wellesley plan, which I don't have, I don't have the cost of. The Sherburne is on the low end, which we've also really liked. Let's see. One of our committee members was searching this morning and found that. So I'm looking at the costs of Lincoln, which was 100,000, Weston, which was 133, Sherburne was 70, Concord was 138. And we found out that between these towns, they were ranging between 800,000 and 2.8 million in grants. Some of them have full-time staff that comes and applies for these grants, and at this point, it's just me. But it's paid back in dividends pretty well.
Okay. That's a pretty high ROI from it.
It has been.
If you do 100 grand, then you get 2 million out. I mean,
yeah.
But Anna, you're saying
maybe
you're saying that a completed climate action plan was the gating factor in the ability for them to apply for those grants?
yes. Now, to be clear, they've done those between 2019 and 2023, and the town and the Commonwealth just released the climate leaders community that looks especially at mitigation work last year. So it's possible that we could scale it down and just focus on mitigation, focus on adaptation, and don't have the connecting piece. But what we're seeing is that everyone who has done the connecting pieces, which is a lot of the area and many towns in the state at this point, have gotten serious money for their effort.
and for those other towns, do they then have ongoing costs? Because it's great to say, hey, we're eligible for $500,000 or 100,000 or $1 million. I know it's completely dependent on could we get it? Who knows? But then do those towns have an ongoing sort of operating cost associated with the projects like this, or is it more it's a one-off to get it set up, and once you get it set up, then there's not really incremental consistent run rate operating costs? I'm just trying to understand, is this a one-off, or hey guys, after $50,000 next year we're going to come back asking for more money even if we do get grants? Trying to
I mean, we're not planning on it. The typical thing a lot of towns do is they then go, wow, there's so much money out here, we need to hire a sustainability coordinator to apply for grants. I don't really plan on doing that right off the gate. I don't really know that that's a great idea. If the town does a grant writer, that sounds fabulous. At this point, it's me. I could keep doing it. But the cost ends up going into having someone to apply for the grants because it's a lot of work. We're seeing this as a one-off where the town can identify the climate action plan, and then we can more incrementally go and apply for these grants as a committee. That's not to say that's the most advisable thing, but that's been the thinking: is we do a one-off, we get our sense of what the town needs, and then the committee is in charge of going and figuring out how to tell other committees about their opportunities, support other boards with relevant grant applications, stuff like that. So once we have the groundwork, we can go and help out in sort of a more organized way. So I would very much throw my. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, so I wanted to ask about communication, if you will.
Yes.
So Misha and I sit on the capital budget committee, and there are two projects that seem relevant to sustainability, kind of on the face of them. One is that Park and Rec is asking for money to redo the parking lot at Carroll Park because it keeps flooding, which you can certainly relate to climate change. It feels as though that's the kind of project that might have funding available to it in if it were identified as a mitigation effort. How does the sustainability committee going forward hear about those kinds of things and kind of get into the process early enough that either someone from sustainability or from Park and Rec, can be applying for grants that would help support that? Another thing would be the fuel island, for example, which
Yep.
certainly raises the uh, the stakes in terms of electrifying the town's vehicular fleet. Uh, it feels as though pairing the may not be possible to defer the fuel island, but could that be leveraged in some way to get funds for charging stations, whatever? And how does sustainability get plugged in a way so that people can raise those issues early enough in the process that people first think of them and second of all can act in a way that potentially helps fund them.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've been talking about because we wanted to help more with the Carroll Community Center landscaping, and we're basically behind the curve on that. The thinking at this point has been um, go and contact all the different boards, get a few minutes on their agenda. We were planning this for the fall and ended up not in the winter, ended up not doing it for different reasons, but go and talk to everyone and say, hey, we're out there. I believe as a committee, we also probably need to do more email outreach to boards, make sure people know about the grants we're finding, and generally be more in touch. So that's been one of my plans. But also, I'm hoping with some of the MVP planning process, we're going to make some better connections because we're very much encouraged to go and find other folks in the town, both residents and organize it, folks on committees or staff, and hear what's going on. So we're trying to also use some of this as a chance to like go and find the parts of the organizations that are doing this kind of work and make sure we know them and they know us. So as this occurs to people, we can be in touch.
Yeah.
It was also part of the point of having so many appointees from other boards on our initial group of folks, just so we could like hear what's going on in recycling, hear what's going on in planning, hear what's going on in tree preservation. And that's been pretty helpful as we've worked on our native species policy that is on my desk to send out, referencing what the tree planning committee was doing was helpful. So we could kind of shy away from trees specifically and make sure we're covering other things too.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions, comments? Passive group tonight. Okay, that was great, Anna. Thank you very much. So uh, you're going to present again at open hearing, so we'll have a chance to ask any additional questions then.
Yes, and if anyone has any questions in the meantime, email me. If you have suggestions about ways to clarify this for the community, please let me know. I will make sure to point out that the climate action plan itself doesn't have a follow-up cost. It's the question of what we want to do after we've done the plan and what our next moves are is where the town decides on follow-up cost.
Great. Okay.
If I could make a
Yes,
recommendation.
please. Yes.
Having some case studies from the towns around us who've
Okay.
done this with the dollar amounts of the grants or the specific grants that they got, I think would be a pretty compelling financial argument.
I can do that.
And just
Sounds good.
you're basically asking for $50,000 to hire a consultant to do a plan.
Yep.
Okay.
And to help us make sure we're making good use of community forums for that plan. We do want to get the community involved. So it's technical, but there's also some community work.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, as shocking as it is, we're pretty much done. I think we dealt with the minutes, demonstrating high efficiency, and we've reviewed the schedule. So, Unless someone has other new business that they want to bring up, I'm ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Great. Marty,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So it's Monday night, 7:30 at the community center. Try and be there around 7:15, just so we can get in place before things start. All right.
Will you have the allocation of which articles prior to that, so we know which ones to particularly pay attention to for each individual?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you to pay attention only to your articles, though. So, yeah. But,
I said particular attention. Would you not?
All right, but I'll try and send it out by email in advance.
I can't believe there's no sidewalk discussion this year.
I know. It's really disappointing. It
is. It really is.
Kind of recurring theme.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, great. See you Monday night.
Bye.
All right. Good night.
Okay. Good night.